We are all invited to the wedding feast of the Lamb. We're actually participating in the wedding feast right now. Every time we come to Mass, we participate in the great celebration of heaven, where heaven and earth are united for just a glimpse. And it is just such a fantastic thing. Today's gospel, I don't think, is just talking about a wedding back 2,000 years ago. I think it also relates to our circumstance of the church even today. That sometimes people are invited to participate and people choose not to. In a few hours' time, just a couple of hours' time, in Assisi in Italy, the church will beatify, make a blessed of a young man who died in 2006. His name, if whoever's got the clicker, if they could click to the next slide, they might, there we go. Wonderful, thank you. He was a 15-year-old who died in the year 2006. He'll be known as Blessed Carlo Acutis. It's quite an interesting story. I want to talk to him about him today. So he'll be literally made a blessed in just a few hours' time. His mother, when she made her first Holy Communion, it was one of the first times she'd ever been to Mass. They were an Italian family. His mother said she'd been to communion when she made her first Holy Communion, when she made her confirmation, and when she was married. Those were the times she'd been to church growing up. And then she had this little child, Carlo Acutis. When Carlo made his first communion at the age of 7, he was so immersed in what happened in the Eucharist that he asked, could he go the next day? Because he wanted to come back to receive communion again the day after. And his mum thought, this is weird. But a little 7-year-old's asking to go to receive communion again. Okay, we'll go back on Monday. Then the Tuesday, he wanted to receive communion again. And then Wednesday, and then Thursday, then Friday, then Saturday, and then Sunday. And he'd gone to communion 8 times in 8 days. This little boy of 7. Over the years, between the ages of 7 and 15, Carlo convinced lots of other people in and around Milan to come to Mass with him. Whether it was his mum, whether it was his dad, whether it was his cousins, whether it was his neighbours, whether it was the people down the street. He invited lots of people to come to Mass. He loved coming to Mass. He also loved other things too. This guy, Carlo Acutis, only died in 2006, so it's not that long ago. He was only 15. He loved playing video games. There was records of him playing PlayStation 2 and other games on his PS2 at home, similar to what perhaps teenagers do today. He was also known for being a computer programmer. He loved programming, and he also loved the Eucharist, as I talked about. And he received the Eucharist every single day of his life up until he died, from the day he made his first communion. It's quite incredible that is actually still happening today. Well, 15 years ago, this happened in our world. He was so interested in the Eucharist that he started researching Eucharistic miracles. You might know of some Eucharistic miracles. He catalogued over 100 different Eucharistic miracles and then created websites in multiple languages about them so that people would believe in the Eucharist as to what actually happens at this altar. That this is not just an opportunity to sit in the church on a Saturday afternoon, but we're engaging in the wedding feast of the Lamb, as this gospel was talking about tonight. Many are invited, but many say, oh, I'm going to the farm this week, I'm not coming. Oh, I've got to go to work, I'm not coming. I've got something better to do, I'm not coming. I'm not interested, I'm not coming. So Carlo thought, well, how can we bring others to understand what he understood was let's share with them the Eucharistic miracles. And he did that in beautiful ways. He is a saint, or will be a blessed, and he's on the path towards sanctity. We've made a blessed just in a few hours' time. I sometimes wonder what we can do to help bring about the renewal of the church, and I'm sure all of us think about this too. I've thought at times maybe the way to renew the church is through the parents or through the grandparents. And many of you play an important role. But I think the example of someone like Carlo Acutis, a young guy, he inspired his mum, his dad, his uncles, his aunts, the people down the street to love Jesus in the Eucharist and to come to Mass. Young people, even children and teenagers, they can be our saints today as well. Let's encourage our young people to have a love for the Eucharist. And each of us, let's have a love for the Eucharist too. We're participating in this because God is coming to us tonight. What a gift it is. We see on the screen, there's two pictures of there. The one on the right is Carlo when he was living as a teenager. And then the one on the left is Carlo, there was a picture just taken just last week. His body has been preserved, hasn't corrupted in the way that people normally corrupt over time. And they opened his coffin, and that is a picture of him from his shrine in the Church of the Angels in Assisi. He died of leukemia in 2006, and everybody around him were amazed at the sanctity of this young child. He loved St. Francis of Assisi, and even though he lived in Milan, Carlo, he said, "Can I get buried in Assisi? Because I love St. Francis so much." And his parents agreed. They took his body down and he was buried in Assisi. And just a few weeks ago, they dug up his body and he was placed. They realised that he looked pretty good. Hadn't corrupted in the way that people expected he would have. Let's today pray for Carlo's intercession, or blessed Carlo as he'll be by the end of this evening. Pray that he will help us grow in a deeper love for the Eucharist, and that all young people, little children, teenagers, right through to those who are young at heart in their 80s and 90s, will treasure the beautiful gift that is the Eucharist, that we will come to the banquet of the Lamb, the wedding feast of the Lamb, as we heard in the Gospel, and as we heard in the first reading from the prophet Isaiah, the Lord of hosts will prepare for all peoples a banquet of rich food. This is what we're participating in. Let's treasure this great gift of the Eucharist.